If you are a recruiter struggling to acquire new business and you're constantly relying on referrals and word of mouth, this video is for you. So in this video, I'm going to show you an exact system that you can use to generate new business without having to rely on referrals, without having to go to networking events, and without having to make hours worth of cold calls. So let's get into this. I'm going to share my screen and go over this video today. This is going to be obviously the importance of looking at different acquisition channels other than referrals and networking. Majority of recruiters that I speak to solely rely on networking and referrals to grow business. Now, this is really important in the recruitment space, and it actually works because at the end of the day, recruitment is a people's network and it's a people's industry, all right? And your candidate pool is probably an accumulation of all of the people you've ever spoke with, and you identify their skill sets and place them in certain positions, right? However, referrals and networking is inconsistent, it's unscalable, and it's hard to measure. Obviously, some benefits are you get warm leads, those leads are usually easy to close, and there's less competition at networking events and in referrals just because of the nature of it. Ultimately, this can lead to new business. There's no doubt about that, and you've probably grown your business this way so far. However, it's just not going to take you to the next level. That's just a matter of fact for these reasons listed. Now, what we're going to do in this video is go over all of the acquisition channels that we can cover as a recruiter and break them down step by step in terms of which one's the best, which one's the worst, and which one you can get started with today, right? So if any business, any service-based B2B business, there's only 3 ways you can acquire new clients. There's paid ads, content, and cold outreach. Now, paid ads get you fast leads. They really will, and you'll get a lot of data. However, with paid ads, these are expensive and not as applicable for business development as a recruiter. Paid ads would simply be posting on LinkedIn or Facebook and putting money behind that to push the post out to even more people, right? Typically as a recruiter, this can work for candidates, but not so much on the client side. Personally, I rule out paid ads for all of my clients, and I wouldn't recommend this if you're a recruiter. Next, we have content. So this is posting content like the YouTube video I am now, posting stuff on LinkedIn, posting stuff on Facebook and Instagram. Now, of course, the benefits for content is that it's cheap and it's easy to post. However, content is very slow, and in all honesty, I've never seen it yield an ROI in the recruitment sector. I know this for a fact because when I very first started my business, I would do Instagram posts for clients, and I quickly stopped because it wasn't getting anywhere, right? It will make your make your presentation look slightly better and stuff like this, but it's not going to yield a direct ROI, so I don't think there's any point investing in this as a recruiter. I think the only thing you need to focus on, whether it's acquiring more clients or more candidates, is cold outreach. Cold outreach is very effective, it's fast and it's cheap. The only downside is that it's more manual, right? This is the #1 channel that I would rely on to grow your business effectively if you are a recruiter in 2024, okay? So cold outreach, what is cold outreach? So cold outreach is basically reaching out to any other business without that initial relationship existing. So it's completely cold contact. This is typically in the form of cold calls, cold email, LinkedIn messages, it could even be Facebook messages, things like that, but it's usually direct outreach to someone in your target audience, okay? Now, as you can see, cold calls, cold email, LinkedIn messages, these effectively cost nothing, especially if you're doing it manually. Now, there'll start to be some software costs and things like that if you start to automate this process, which is what we go into. But very simply, it's really easy to get started, and there's a low barrier to entry. This means it's great to start scaling your company. Okay, I've got some cold outreach systems listed out here. We've got cold calls, cold email, and LinkedIn messages. And we've got the typical stages of each of those, right? The typical stages of the pipeline and the funnel. Now, what's really important is that oftentimes recruiters are put off by doing cold outreach because it seems like some big mystical sort of like box that you're opening, so Pandora's box, right? Because you don't know what you're really doing here. You're sending some emails out, you're making calls here and there, but there's no like systemized, process-driven way of tracking this. And ultimately, that is stopping you from growing your company. To grow your company, any business, it just has to be based off tracking your data and tracking your metrics in your sales process. And this is exactly what we're doing here. So whether you pick cold calls, whether you pick cold email, whether you pick LinkedIn messages, you need to track every single stage along the pipeline, okay? So I'm going to break down cold calls for us. So this is what it looks like. So to do a successful cold call campaign, what you need to do is make a dial, someone has to pick up, you have to speak with them on the phone and set the appointment, and they have to show up. Very, very simply, that's all we need to do. But what is good about having these checkpoints is that we can track data along each of them, right? It's the same for email, it's the same for messages. So if we know how many emails we sent out, how many have been replied, how many have been replied positively, and how many meetings we've booked per number of, say, 1,000 emails sent, then we can track in the pipeline exactly where the issue is. So the brutal truth and honest truth is any of these channels will work if you stick to them enough and you optimize the process. But we know for our company that cold email and LinkedIn will be very, very effective. Cold calls are slightly harder now. If you have a very, very experienced and trained team, then you can do this, but pickup rate is usually an issue from what we see. So we tend to stick to cold email and LinkedIn, right? The trick here is really tracking every single metric along the pipeline, as I mentioned. Otherwise, you have no idea what's working. So for cold email, this is actually numbers from a client that we onboarded 3 or 4 weeks ago. They've already signed 2 contracts and actually made 2 placements as of Friday. It's Sunday of recording this. So this is the exact funnel that we've actually done for one of our clients and the numbers broken down. So if you optimize your cold email process, this is what you can expect. Now, I'm not saying you'll be able to hit the numbers we can straight away. We've spent a long time optimizing this. Now we have proven scripts and proven templates that work for recruiters. If you're just getting into this, it's going to take you a little bit of time to get up to these numbers. But these are typical numbers along the pipeline. I'm going to explain to you exactly how we look at it and how we can make it work, right? So cold email, it all starts with sending the emails, of course. So we build an infrastructure that allows us to send high volumes of emails to targeted audiences, right? So the first step is how many emails we sent. In this case, we contacted 1,063 leads, okay? As you can see from our dashboard that we used there. From there, we had 23 people respond, right? So this doesn't count out of offices. This is other people saying, yes, please, no, thank you, not right now, or unsubscribe, any of the above. They're just replying to our email, okay? So we can see that we had a 2.3% email reply rate. Typically, this is actually a bit lower than we would expect, right? So this metric we want to be around 3 to 8%, depending on the targeting. So we're just below KPI here on this metric. However, if we look at the other pieces in the funnel, then it sort of makes up for this. So we've had 23 email replies. 7 of these have been positive, i.e. they're interested and they want to speak with us. So from that, we have a 30% email reply to positive reply rate. So that means 30% of all people getting back to us are genuinely interested. In the recruitment space, this is quite a good number. Anything over 20% is pretty good in the recruitment sector because usually the recruitment offer is very, very hard to make work effectively on cold outbound. So we've got 7 people who are interested and want to speak to us. From there, we managed to book 4 calls, which is a 55% booking rate, which is once again typically pretty good. This is because we've optimized the follow-up process. We've optimized the process after someone said they're interested. Okay. From those 4 book calls, we've had 2 terms signed, and one of those clients has now accepted placements and made offers. So the client has made money, right? So they've got a 50% close rate there. So the terms have been signed with 2 clients from 1,000 contacts being reached out to. Now, what's great about this is now you have these numbers, right? You have this funnel, you have these metrics in place. All you need to do to increase this number in the end, aka client signed, is increase the number going into it. We have the funnel set up here. We have these percentages, and these percentages will remain about the same. All we need to do is start turning the dial. And that's why it takes a little bit of time getting set up at the start to make sure all of those percentages along the pipeline are tracked and within KPI. And then you just start to turn the dial and you can systemize and scale this system, right? Because what's the difference? You do this, or you rely on referrals and your network. You've got no idea where the leads are coming from. You've got no repeatable way of doing this, no system, and it's very, very difficult to keep track of. Whereas when you're clearly systemizing this whole process and putting numbers to everything, it's easy to drop in and say, oh, look, our reply rate is the problem. It's at 2%. This is why we're not getting the business we want. How can we, make a difference to our script to increase this reply rate? And then once again, it could be your close rate's the issue. Maybe you're generating a lot of leads, but your close rate's only 10% instead of like 50% or 40%. Then you can go in and go, okay, what's happening with our sales process? Are we following up with the leads before they join the call? Is it the show-up rate that's the issue, not the close rate? Is it the warmth of the lead? All of these things. But just tracking your data allows you to actually go in and see what the issue is. So this is why as a recruiter, it's actually relatively simple to grow your business. All you need to do is find one channel that works and track your data and then start to turn the dial. This might be emails for you, this might be cold calls, this might be LinkedIn messages, it might be Facebook messages, whatever it is. Test all of these at the beginning. And ultimately that's what we do for our clients and that's what we could potentially do for you. So as a recruiter, you don't need to continue to rely on referrals and your network. There's now acquisition systems that can consistently grow your business, right, month on month, with actually relatively low input from your end. These are very much automated now. So if you're interested in learning a little bit more on how potentially we could help you do this with your business and acquire new clients consistently like this, then book a call with us below and we'll show you in a little bit more detail how this exact system works. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video today, and I'll see you on the next one.